Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Very well.
Great. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our philosophy today. And I'm going to start out with Ernest Holmes' principles, Declaration of Principles, and expand upon them just a little bit. Dr. Holmes wrote that we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but it's never absorbed by its creation. Everything you can imagine, the whole world, everything is the body of God. And Dr. Holmes said it's the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. So we believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in everything, right? And all people are incarnations of it. We believe life to be eternal, the immortality and the continuity of the individual soul. And we believe that it goes on and forever expanding. We believe that heaven is truly within us to the extent that we become conscious of it. We believe that the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every kind. And furthermore, that this goal is it's sure to be attained by everybody. I always found that to be comforting. The notion is no matter what you're going through, it's all going to work out. I'm reminded, as I digress a little bit, of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who wrote, I believe it was in The Law of Compensation. He said there's a corrective principle always at work in life. And more importantly, it's for you, it's in whose life? It's in your life. So in that sense, you really can't get it wrong, because the universe, Emerson wrote, is always wooing you. Have you ever gone through periods in your life where things seem pretty tough? Where it could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be a health matter, it could be anything. And things really seem pretty tough. And it doesn't look like there's a way out. Well, I've learned there's always a way out. And oftentimes it's not the way that you think. Logic sometimes isn't the answer. From some of my programs, places I've been in my travels, that they would say to me that the best of my thinking got me precisely where I am. So there is a surrendering process, I think, that takes place. The surrendering, as I understand it, in the spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, is going to come in our prayer process itself. The first step of treatment is the recognition that God is an omnipresent. Further, it is the omnipresence itself. And we live and we move and we have our being in that presence. We can be nowhere else but be in it. And as we understand that we're one with everything in life, and that this very God that is around us is in us and operating through us, as we know that, we begin to declare certain ideas that are eternally true, have always been true. You see, in our teaching, we don't pray for things. We declare what is true. With health, we know that there's a perfect pattern, that there are subtle bodies, there are bodies within bodies, and we know that they're operating within us. And we know that there's a divine pattern of health. We know that there's a divine pattern of prosperity operating in the world. Our challenge is to access it. Our challenge personally is to access that part of us and connect with that part of us so that we can open up channels within our minds to receive the good that's omnipresent. Ralph Waldo Emerson again stated that the universe is wooing you in every moment. If you can create the space through your sleep, through quieter moments, through slowing it down, through meditation, through journaling, through any one of a number of things where you can have some more time with yourself, in nature, practices wherein the universe can get your attention. Emerson suggests that it's always there. It's always attempting to get your attention. Everyone in this room knows that in the Christian scriptures, my favorite parable is that of the prodigal child. Because it's the perfect parable to describe what happens, the way it works. Each of us are born in a kingdom, and each of you are the heir to the throne. You are the daughter, the son of the queen and king. It doesn't get much better than that. Everything is yours. You're established in it. There's nothing you can do. And yet, in the story that many of us are familiar with, we take off, we go off into the wild country, we disappear, we go into what we call here in this teaching separation. And we cut ourselves off from the good that is naturally ours. And we feel pain, we feel loss, we go through some tough times, but the thing to remember is, all of that is self-imposed. In the story of the wandering, in the story of the separation, we wake eventually, after enough suffering and enough pain. The story is the realization that in my father's house or my mother's house, I had everything. That the people who worked there were treated better than I am. And so there's an awakening that happens, and for us too. And with that awakening comes the realization that I turn to the Spirit, I turn to that which is in, I turn to the Father. And in the story, the Father comes rushing to you, comes rushing to the prodigal child. Well, each of us are the prodigal children. Our waking days, moment by moment, many times we're lost. We go into stories. We have stories about other people and other guys, and we have other stories about people who are wrong and people who are bad and how we're not good enough and how they're terrible or this or that. We do a lot of storytelling. And, how do those stories really work for any of us? When you go into a story, you're creating a separation, much like the prodigal child created a separation as he or she leaves the kingdom. So the call today is to come back into the kingdom. Come back to truth. Come back to the realization that what you are is important and who you are is amazing. And not because of anything you're doing, it's just because of the truth of your being. Who you are is an interconnected being with all of life. And what you do is amazingly important. The world could not be the same without you. Your contribution is a part of, a whole forward movement of life. And every loving and kind thing you do is important. And your growing awareness here is exceptionally important. It's important for yourself. It's important for everybody here. What we do here is important. So, what's the work for us? My teachers over the years have been many. The ones most notably have impacted me, other than Ernest Holmes, probably would have been Louise Hay, as I've taught her groups and run her facilitated groups, self-healing groups for over 20 years. It's always a simple message with her material, Louise Hay, which is learning to love yourself. Louise Hay will say so simply and beautifully, self-acceptance and self-approval in the now are the keys to everything. Self-acceptance and self-approval in the now are the keys to everything. When you really, really love yourself, everything works better in your life. It all gets better. I don't know about the rest of you. I spend a lot of my time in my life going out there trying to help other people. Nothing really wrong with that, right? I don't know that I put the same amount of effort into helping myself. I don't think I put the same amount of effort into loving the most important person in my world. Have you? If you really, really, really loved yourself, everything in your life would begin to work better. You wouldn't be such a caretaker, maybe. You probably wouldn't be working in half the jobs you're working. You'd be doing things that are more fun. You know that's one of my words. It's got to be fun or I don't want to do what? I don't want to be involved in it. You know, I was living with somebody years ago who passed away in 1990, and the message, I remember that message, I was said, you know, Greg, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. And if you're waiting for your ship to come in or something to happen, you know, you're playing the waiting game. And I could quote Dr. Seuss as much as I could talk about Emerson or Dr. Holmes. The waiting game is a very dangerous place. It's a dangerous game to be playing. What does Dr. Seuss say? And the places you go, you know, you're waiting for your hair to grow, the kite to fly, the fish to bite, or, you know, a date on a Saturday night. I can't remember the rhyme, but the suggestion of that book, which I think is a wonderful book too, he says, oh, the places you will go. You know, you'll go where the boom bands are playing, where great things can happen. Well, all of that happens by means of your consciousness only. So as Louise Hay would say so beautifully, it's really all about what you're telling yourself. Your subconscious mind will support whatever the heck it is that runs inside of you. Group after group, week after week, I ask one question to the group, every single week, every single group, and it is, what is it like being you? What is it like being you? Would you like you if you met you? What's the conversation like? What is your internal dialogue all about? And then you might be thinking, oh, if he really knew, you know, he wouldn't believe. And I would say, oh, yes, I would. Because I have a version of it too, right? So, do we want to condemn ourselves for being where we are? That isn't going to work. So, I love from You Can Heal Your Life, where Louise Hay would say, it's like cleaning a house. You begin wherever you are. And let's say this morning you started off in a bad way, and you got here late, and things happened, and you got into a spin or a story. And let's say your whole week has been a story, or the past 2 or 3 days has been a story. How has it been for you to be you the past couple days? And more importantly, with that knowledge, what can you do about it? If you were in a 12-step program, they would have a 10th step for you. The 10th step would be to continue to take an inventory, right? Or they would say it's never too late to start your day over. And that's the same message here. You know, once you see that you're in the swamp, drain it. Once you see that you're in a situation and you're telling yourself something, you know, we are truth students here. I was told that 25 years ago by a great minister, and he said, Greg, you're in the big leagues now, and he said, you have everything you need in this situation. A truth student isn't too caught up in the world of facts. A fact could be the bank balance is low, the medical blood work says your cholesterol's off, or this is that, or, you know, those are facts. You can read them. Professionals tell you. This is not a teaching that is ignorant to facts, but what we know is we're able to work with conditions, we're able to bring about healing through other means. There's power, Ernest Holmes said, for good in the universe, and you can use it. There are patterns of health within you. You can access healing that's amazing. So the call for each of us is to remember the truth of us and the power that we have that's available to us. From the Course in Miracles, what would you have? What would you want that's not already given to you? Peace, joy, healing, it's all there. As I started to read the declarations this morning, Ernest Holmes states we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all of this, of every discord of every nature. And the best part of you says, and we are sure that this goal is to be attained by everybody. Emerson suggested we need to get our bloated nothingness out of the way. What was he saying with that? I was offended when I first heard it. It's really the idea that me doing it the way I've always done it is going to produce what I've always got. If I can make a little room in my mind and my heart and my spirit in a surrendering process out of recognizing that God is everywhere in the first step of treatment, and surrendering to ideas of peace, power, love, joy, and beauty as being the truth in the third step of treatment, if I can do that, if I can surrender all my needs and come from a place of realization that God truly is giving me everything I could possibly ever want or need, then my attachments are going to disappear. My life is going to be transformed. Because I'm really going to know, as Louise Hay so eloquently states, that all is well in my world. It always has been. I close today with an idea from the Course in Miracles that I've always loved, which is this. It takes great wisdom to know that all events, circumstances, and happenings have been helpful. I'll say that again. It takes great wisdom to understand that all events, circumstances, and happenings are helpful. Every one of them have brought you to where you are, and so it is.